Recession is typically defined as a period of economic decline, characterized by a decline in gross domestic product (GDP) for 2 or more consecutive quarters. It is also often characterized by a rise in unemployment, a decline in industrial production, and a decline in trade. The most recent recession was the Great Recession of 2008 to 2009, which was one of the worst economic downturns in U.S. history. Other notable recessions in U.S. history include the dot-com bubble of 2001, the 1990 to 1991 recession, and the 1973 to 1975 recession. The causes of past recessions in the United States have varied, but there are some common factors that have contributed to economic downturns. The Great Recession of 2008 to 2009 was caused by a combination of factors, including the collapse of the housing market and the resulting financial crisis. The housing market had been in a bubble for several years, with home prices rising to unsustainable levels. When the bubble burst, many homeowners found themselves underwater on their mortgages and unable to refinance. This led to a wave of foreclosures, which in turn led to a decline in home prices and a decline in consumer spending. The financial crisis was triggered by the failure of several large financial institutions, which were heavily invested in the housing market. The dot-com bubble of 2001 was caused by a bubble in the technology sector, with investors pouring money into technology companies, many of which had no revenue or profits. When the bubble burst, the Nasdaq stock market index, which is heavily weighted towards technology companies, dropped by 78%. The 1990 to 1991 recession was caused by a variety of factors, including an oil price shock and a tightening of monetary policy by the Federal Reserve. The oil price shock came about as a result of the Gulf War and the subsequent disruption of oil supplies. The Federal Reserve, led by Alan Greenspan, raised interest rates in order to curb inflation, which led to a decline in economic activity. The 1973 to 1975 recession was caused by a combination of factors, including the end of the post-World War II economic boom, a rise in oil prices, and monetary policy mistakes by the Federal Reserve. The end of the post-World War II economic boom led to a decline in economic growth, while the rise in oil prices, caused by the oil embargo imposed by OPEC, led to a sharp increase in inflation. The Federal Reserve, led by Arthur Burns, made a series of monetary policy mistakes that contributed to the recession, including keeping interest rates too low for too long. Causes of recession. Economic factors that can cause a recession include high unemployment, falling GDP, and a decline in consumer spending. High unemployment can occur when businesses are not hiring or when they are laying off workers. This leads to less money circulating in the economy, which can slow down economic growth. Falling GDP occurs when the economy is not producing enough goods and services to meet the demands of consumers. A decline in consumer spending can occur when people are worried about their financial future and are less likely to make large purchases, such as cars or houses. External factors that can cause a recession include natural disasters, political instability, and changes in trade policy. Natural disasters, such as hurricanes or earthquakes, can disrupt economic activity by destroying infrastructure and causing businesses to shut down. Political instability can cause investors to become less confident in a country's future, which can lead to a decline in economic activity. Changes in trade policy, such as tariffs or trade agreements, can also have an impact on the economy. Overall, it's important to note that recessions are complex events that can be caused by a combination of factors, both economic and external. It's also important to note that recessions are a normal part of economic cycles and they can be followed by periods of economic growth. Effects of a recession. A recession can lead to higher unemployment, which can make it difficult for individuals to find work and make ends meet. Many people may have to take lower-paying jobs or work fewer hours. This can also lead to a decline in personal income, which can make it difficult for people to afford necessities such as housing, food, and healthcare. For businesses, a recession can lead to a decline in sales and profits. When consumers are spending less, businesses may have to lay off workers or reduce hours. This can lead to a decline in economic activity as businesses cut back on production and investment. Many small businesses may have to close their doors, leading to a decline in the number of jobs available. The overall effects of a recession on the economy can be severe. A decline in economic activity can lead to a decline in tax revenues, which can make it difficult for governments to fund important programs and services. A recession can also lead to a decline in the stock market, which can affect the value of people's savings and retirement accounts. Recession can also lead to an increase in the national debt and government deficit. As government spending increases to try to stimulate the economy and support citizens, taxes may not be able to keep up and the debt increases. It is important to note that while the effects of a recession can be severe, they are also typically temporary. The economy will eventually recover and begin to grow again, but it can be a difficult time for many individuals and businesses. Government response to a recession. One of the main tools that governments use to respond to a recession is fiscal policy. Fiscal policy refers to the ways in which governments can use spending and taxation to influence economic activity. During a recession, governments can use fiscal policy to increase spending in order to stimulate economic activity. This can take the form of infrastructure projects, such as building roads or bridges, or it can take the form of direct aid to individuals and businesses. The goal of this spending is to put money into the hands of consumers and businesses, which will help to increase economic activity and create jobs. Another tool that governments can use to respond to a recession is monetary policy. Monetary policy refers to the ways in which a central bank can influence the economy through the use of interest rates and the money supply. During a recession, a central bank can use monetary policy to lower interest rates, which makes it cheaper for businesses and individuals to borrow money. This can lead to increased spending and investment, which can help to stimulate economic activity. It's important to note that government response to a recession is not always effective and it can also have unintended consequences. For example, increasing government spending can lead to higher inflation or increase the national debt. Lowering interest rates can also lead to an asset bubble or a housing market bubble. Therefore, it's important for governments to carefully consider the potential consequences of their actions and to implement policies that are tailored to the specific circumstances of the recession. Conclusion. By understanding the causes and effects of recessions, individuals and businesses can be better prepared to weather an economic downturn. This can include things like saving money, reducing debt, and diversifying investments. For individuals, it's important to have an emergency fund to cover unexpected expenses and to be mindful of expenses during a recession. You can also look for ways to increase your income, such as taking on a part-time job or starting a side business. For businesses, it's important to be aware of changes in the economy and to adjust operations accordingly. This can include cutting costs, diversifying products or services, and building relationships with suppliers and customers. Another important point to mention in the conclusion is the importance of government response in recessions. Government policies, such as fiscal and monetary policies, can play a critical role in mitigating the impact of a recession on individuals and businesses. Therefore, it's important for citizens to stay informed about the government policies and to hold the government accountable for the actions taken during recessions. Finally, it's important to remember that recessions are a normal part of the economic cycle and that the economy will eventually recover. While recessions can be difficult, they also present opportunities for growth and innovation. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos.